Anybody else have any questions?
I have one. Let's say you have that person that's in hospice that is truly in their last 3 or 4 days and they die at home. What's the instructions to the family at that point? Is the instruction for them, okay, grandpa just took his last breath, now I need to call the hospice nurse? Or because a lot of times they'll go, they just stopped breathing, so we called you. It's like, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to call the hospice nurse first.
Our instruction is always to call hospice and not call EMS, because our experience is that the police come,
Captain Mulligan, you have cause 613.
The police stick around, and there's lights, there's pomp and circumstance that the family doesn't need, and that it doesn't require with hospice. So we always ask them to call hospice, and then hospice will come out and we'll stay with the family until the funeral home gets there.
So is the hospice nurse the one pronouncing death then?
Yeah, we're calling the physician.
And then they'll
pronounce
over the
pronounce,
right. They'll pronounce over the phone.
Yeah, so they'll call the physician and they'll say it appears respiration ceased at 12:25, and then the doctor will okay that. We don't have to call anybody in the facility. Sometimes they'll send a social worker instead of the nurse because the nurses in the facility can do that job, and then we can call the physician, and then we sit and wait with the patient until the funeral home gets there, or sometimes until they choose a funeral home. Some of our patients and families don't think they need a funeral home, and so sometimes we get there and 5 or 6 hours later we're still waiting for them to make a decision about funeral home arrangements.
Probably the most common in that situation what we get is the family, everybody knows there's hospice, there's a DNR, but Uncle Jerry came in from Iowa and he's the one that was sitting there when Grandpa took his last breath and he calls 911.
EMS. Absolutely. We get that a lot. And we've had, I'd say in Franklin County, we've had wonderful response from EMS and the police when we've shown up. Because usually you guys will be there before we would get there, because might be 25 minutes away. But we've had wonderful response. In Licking County, they're pretty rigid and they won't leave the house. They stand there with us. The police won't leave. They'll stay outside. They'll still have their lights on. And that in a lot of ways is really hard for the families. So we try to be there and be supportive. We've had great experience though in Franklin County with the EMS and the police just being so respectful to the family and kind and being more of a help. And sometimes it's nice to have the EMS there when there's 30 families crawling around and there's a lot of dynamics and drama, and I'm sure you run into that too.
That's here at the station.
I've had a hospice nurse call. She goes, my mom's in hospice. I'm a hospice nurse, but I saw her take her last breath, and I just called, I'm so sorry. And we're like, don't worry, we're here. She panicked,
Right.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
So we came and we're like, okay, do you have all the paperwork? We kind of slowly went through it with her, and she's like, yeah. I'm so sorry. I said, please don't apologize. This is kind of what we do. We're here for you now.
Right.
And so she finally realized that, there was a bit of a crying session going on, but even people that are educated on it still call.
Absolutely, and I think it's just, my kids are really little, and I tell my kids, what would you do if something happened? What would you do? You're going to call 911. Then you go through school, everything, and you're going to call 911, you're going to call 911. So for me to tell an 80-year-old woman to call hospice and not call 911 is so foreign. And I don't think we can always expect our families to get that. It's just nice. It sounds like you guys are very educated and kind and not upset with these families that do call. We don't always have that experience, with hospice. Why are you calling us? You should be, And so it's nice to have here that you're taking the time to be with them, and because that's what we're going to do. When we get there, we're going to be able to be with them and hold their hand. But I think many people panic. I would say at least probably 2-3 times a month we get the call after the EMS has been called to let us know that somebody has passed away. Usually in the facility facilities, they're pretty good at calling hospice once the patients pass. But in the home setting, we have that a lot. Our biggest problems with the facilities is they just knee-jerk reaction. They just automatically call EMS for anything. They don't call hospice typically. And sometimes we don't find out till 2 days later that they actually went to the hospital. They don't ever call us. So that's why it's good if you guys think to ask that question, maybe they'll actually call. We had a patient last week, we visited only once a week because that's what the family wanted. And it had been like Thursday they went into the hospital, and the next Wednesday we went to visit, and they had been in the hospital since Friday. So we found out that they had been in the hospital for 5 or 6 days, and nobody, the family didn't tell them the hospital they were on hospice. The facility didn't call us to let us know, and here we were with a patient in the hospital for 5 days, and then a $100,000 bill that comes to hospice for that.
You guys need a bracelet.
Or some.
I mean, that's just an oversight from somebody not saying she has hospice.
Absolutely.
Because I would think that the hospital would call you.
They would. If
But-
they know, they call. They're very good at calling. I have had great experiences with all the hospitals around here. But if the family isn't thinking that way right then, and the facility night nurse called and nobody was around to know, or the daytime nurse and she was different and knew she didn't know, then it just gets lost in the shuffle. And some families aren't as involved. I'm sure you see that too, where families don't know what hospice. They call Mount Carmel Hospice because they think that's the only hospice. Most people think that there's only one hospice, that we're all together, that there's not 30 different agencies out there, that we're all the same. If you call one hospice, it's going to be the same as the next.
That's why I asked that question, because I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I just literally thought, Hospice of Central Ohio covered Franklin County and the 5 surrounding
Yeah, I
counties.
kind of think of it like,
So, it's like
the Central
Kleenex.
Ohio Area Agency on Aging. Like a
Absolutely.
clearinghouse, you'd think that.
So
Yeah.
I want to go back to your referral question, and I guess this is my last question, because I know you're getting toward the end of your presentation also. Back to the referral. So if we get that person that we're running on constantly for palliative, for CHF or whatever, we can add you to the reference list also that we might call and say,
Absolutely.
because sometimes it's senior options, sometimes it's others, but if we don't, and you might be actually a better person to call for those medical issues, and at least there we've called somebody, and if you can't help them, at least you know who to call. So.
Yeah, and the nice thing about our referral process is that, it first goes to a central location where they gather some information. So they would gather basic information, and if all you had was the name and phone number, we start there. And then we're gonna find out who their physician is and go there. The nice thing is if they're not eligible for hospice, then we have the palliative care program. But the next best thing is if we have somebody that's not eligible but they still need other resources, they're gonna call me and say, hey, I have this family, they're not quite eligible for hospice yet, but can you give them some local resources that can help them until they are eligible? And that gets us in with them, and it gets us to a point where we can refer them to senior options, we can refer them to COAAA, we can refer them to get Meals on Wheels. Because not every patient we get is going to be eligible, but at least we're connecting them with the right agencies. And that's something I love about our agency, because a lot of people, once they're not eligible, they're just going to say, sorry, you're not eligible. But we will go the extra mile and try to help connect with them with the services that they may qualify for. Most people don't know what those services are. Most people don't know that the VA provides services. Most people don't know that there's senior options that'll provide care. Most people don't know what's COAAA. I mean, who knows what COAAA's letters stand for? Most people don't know where they can get help. And most people, when you start talking about hospice, it's like, oh no, I am not going to be on hospice. I'm not dying tomorrow. And we run against that every day. So the more educated these people can be about going out there and doing that, they can help teach families that hospice is more about quality of life. That's my job every day, is how can I make this patient have a better day today? Because 3 months from now, we don't know what that's going to bring. But today, we can help them. And there's 50% of the community here that's eligible for hospice